This is a bit of a mess. I'm gonna clean that up first. Hello and welcome to my channel, Fish of the Flock. My name is Melissa, but to all of you, my intriguing, fascinating, intelligent subscribers, you may call me Missy. In today's video, I'm going to be creating some fabulous garden markers. I love Art Nouveau style, and so I'm going to give my garden markers a bit of an Art Nouveau twist. So we'll see how many I can get done. Let's get into that video. Okay, jumping right into the video. First of all, I want to address the fact that my voice might sound a little bit funny. I have a little frog in my throat that I have been unable to evict, aka I have some kind of cough going on. But I've got some tea and honey with me, so hopefully it won't be too awful. And oh my goodness, so much has already happened on the screen. I was feeling really nervous about designing these garden markers, so I decided to start with a design that I had already made previously that are actually turned into stickers and prints that are available on my website, which I can link down below if you're interested. But this design was originally made on a larger piece of paper, and I was able to get a lot of detail into it, which showed up nicely on the smaller stickers since they were just prints. However, all that detail gets a little bit lost in my laser engraver, which is what I'm going to be using to make the garden markers for this video. So I needed to go over my design and get rid of a lot of the really tiny details that would muddy things up. This, as it seemed to me, took forever. I would have thought that making brand new designs would have taken longer, but actually tracing over every piece of this design took much longer than just making brand new designs. To the point where I actually stopped about halfway through and went ahead and made my other designs before returning to this one and finishing it up to make it ready for my laser engraver. Because I had already sunk so much time into it, I figured I may as well finish it. Additionally, I'm not great with Photoshop, so I don't know any of the shortcuts that might have made this much easier. Now, if you will excuse me for speaking a little out of sync with the video, the first thing that I did that you could have seen at the beginning of this segment was I made the outline for what shape my garden markers are going to be. And they're actually something like a tombstone shape, which I hadn't really thought about until recently. Looking back at it, I'm like, oh, that's a tombstone with fangs, as you can see here. But the rest of my garden markers are going to be based on new original designs, and I decided to have them all with the same border. And as I said at the beginning of this video, I really wanted them to have an Art Nouveau feel. So looking at some reference pictures, I put together a border that felt very Art Nouveau. And because I do know some basics of Photoshop, once I got it looking pretty much like what I wanted it to look like, I was able to just copy it and flip it to make it a perfect mirrored image. So now I can use this frame to put all of my new designs inside of for the various plants. As you can see here, I started with pumpkin, and I did just freestyle that little font there. If you are new here, plant-people hybrids are one of the reoccurring themes in my artwork, and I decided to go ahead and continue that. For these, I was feeling inspired by Charles Dana Gibson's Gibson Girls. Charles Dana Gibson was an artist and illustrator whose lifespan straddled the turn of the century. That is, he was born in 1867 and died in 1944. He is most well known for his iconic drawings of beautiful women. His dynamic line work made for drawings and portraits of still subjects that felt expressive and had a sense of movement. Of particular note is the way he drew hair. It was usually large and loosely piled on the head with plenty of face-framing flyaways. So as I'm drawing my onion, pumpkin, chive, and rosemary girls, I'm not drawing hair in the same way since their hair is being represented essentially by the plants. However, I am able to use things like roots and vines to create a little bit of a sense of some hair flyaways. With chives, I did a little bit more experimenting. I thought perhaps to flip the chives upside down so that the bulbous ends would be on top of the head. And I tried doing this a few times, but I just really couldn't get it to work very well. So I turned back towards my Art Nouveau inspiration after a few unsuccessful attempts at this. I kind of felt like this particular attempt just reminded me of this Les Miserables imagery. And perhaps from a distance it was a little Cthulhu-esque. So I decided to start all over again. And this is the design I ended up going with because it just felt like it fit better with the whole Art Nouveau aesthetic. And since a lot of bulb plants look similar, I wanted to include the flower, and this gave me a way to do that and make it look like the image had some balance to it. And because I was feeling a little bit more insecure about this design after so many iterations, of course the sketch layer looks a lot more finished than the other sketch layers, but it was just the sketch layer. I did go over it some more to make the final layer. Digital art is not my favorite. I am not as comfortable with it as more traditional versions, but I am getting a little bit more comfortable. And eventually the computer space will be better organized so that I can feel more comfortable sitting at the desk doing art. But for now, it's kind of a mess. With all of my designs complete, I needed to get out my engraver, which I tend to set up here outside the window just next to the computer because I don't have a better way of setting all of this up. Putting the equipment outside potentially exposes it to the elements, which means that it cannot be left out there. However, it also means that it has optimal and maximal ventilation. Okay, I have a little garden marker all made now. This is a lot smaller than I had intended for them to be. So I'm going to need to change the size, but it does give me an idea of how that turns out. I think that it works. I think it fits. So we just need to keep working. Thanks to the wonders of modern technology, working in this instance means just being available to press a button at the computer. So now that I have my little garden markers all printed out and I have a whole bunch of plants, I'm going to write on the backs of my markers what varieties of that I have. So for example, here I've got chives and I've got some seeds here that are for garlic chives. And then I have this pot of rising star chives. So I think since I have just the one marker, I'm going to write both varieties on it. And now this garden marker is ready for me to spray with my finishing stuff that should help protect it from the elements. I don't absolutely love how this looks. Because you can see that it has bled a little bit in the wood grain, but I think it will be okay. Now I've got my onion marker. This bag of onions doesn't really tell me anything other than Colorado onion sets. So I guess I'm just gonna write Colorado onion on it. And finally, I have my little pumpkin marker. And now I'm all done writing on the backs of these. I wish I had more for all of the different plants that I have. We're just going to deal with what we have for now. After skimming over the instructions on the spray can several times, I went ahead and got my setup ready and sprayed over these garden markers. I did a few different layers a few hours apart. All right, my garden markers are all done. They're all set up back there. I am really happy with how they look with the little plants. I just realized that I don't think I covered during the video what I used to seal up my garden markers. So here it is. It's this spray sealant. It is Ultimate Spar Urethane. According to the can, it provides UV protection, it's mold and mildew resistant, and it seals out the water. So we'll see how well it does. I did make sure to get around the edges of my wood, but my main concern is that because those edges are more permeable than the flat surfaces, that what is essentially very small plywood will become delaminated over time. I think that's a possibility, but pretty much everything about my gardening is experimental. I'm very new to gardening. I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm just trying to get out there and make things grow to the best of my ability, which is zero. I have zero ability to make things grow. I think those little garden markers are going to work wonderfully. I'm really happy with them. We'll see how they age over time. Hopefully I will remember to keep you updated on that. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you liked anything about that video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you would like to subscribe, I do many things. I do art and home improvement type things. I do sewing projects, and then I'll just do kind of random stuff here and there. So go ahead and hit that subscribe, follow along on my adventures. It should be fun. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.